Well, hi there and welcome back to Wheels of Interest. And now it is episode 8 of the Suzuki Jimny. Body shell repair, chassis repair, MOT, etc, etc. And yeah, had a short break where I've been doing other things, not least a Citroen C3. Head over to that playlist to find out what's going on with that one. And but now today we are back on the Suzuki Jimny, and the last time, episode 7, was the floor was finally in on the rear part of the body shell, and now it is the job is to finish off that area. So the wheel arch down to the floor pan itself, where I cut out a load of old rot, and I'm going to replace it with new steel. So this is where we're looking. One new floor in, welded front and welded at the back, but we have to weld it along each side as well. So without further ado, let's have a go. Right, so we've got the steel cut and I've got it punched with some holes because I'm going to plug weld along the wheel arch there. And as I said last time, I think that I mentioned it, that we didn't have enough width of material to make a full length piece, so the end of it has got an extra piece to go in, which again has been punched and made and will fit in there. Remember, we've got a lapped edge so that it sits on the step on the edge of the wheel arch, and then we'll go down to the return on the floor pan, and that one will sit down inside there. Okay, that's the gist of what we're trying to do. From the inside on the underneath the wheel arch, we are looking at the edge of the floor. This follows the edge of the floor, give or take, all the way along to the back, and there at the front as well. A little bit of thin rot there, which I'm going to address shortly, see how bad that actually is, but apart from that, decent enough steel to weld on, which I'm happy with. Right, so I've given the sheets of new steel some copper primer, which is weld through primer. It works very well with MIG welding. Found that the zinc primer is not as good with welding, with MIG welding at least. Might be okay with spot weld, but with MIG welding, found that the copper stuff is much better. It's really just a cursory primer coat, just so that there's something between the joins, where the laps are, basically just along here on the inside, so they're not bare steel. It won't keep the rust off for very long, I don't suppose, but it's made an effort at least. So I'm just lining up the steel just with the lapped edge there, so that I can clamp it, and then I will plug weld all the way along. Make sure that we flush up that end there. There's going to be an element of metal bending shortly once I start tacking this in, just to get it to fit to the floor, because like with all of these things, it's not an exact science, and making pieces ad hoc is always a little bit hit and miss, but luckily metal bends, so that's really useful, unlike wood. I'm very good with metal, but I'm not so good with wood. At least with metal you can weld it back together, where with wood you sort of got to start again, really. So yeah, with steel and metal you can usually join them quite easily, so if I make a mess or I need to adjust it, it's quite easy to adjust. So yeah, so I'll get it all lined up and then we'll get going with the welder. So I'm just on the inside left wheel arch, and I've managed to form a double curve on a piece of steel to plug this hole up here. I'm pretty proud of this because I didn't use any special tools apart from my planishing hammer, and yeah, I've managed to make a decent job of it so that it fits in that hole. Clearly it's not Ferrari bodywork standard, but good enough for what we need, just to hold that, fill that hole up. From the inside it's going to be covered up with carpet, and from the inside of the wheel arch on the outside of the car it's going to be covered in stone chip and sealant, so you're not going to be able to see it when it's finished, and it's going to be nice substantial repair to fill the hole in, so that's good. On the right hand side it's a single curve, so that's easier to make, and I'll get on with that shortly. So first thing to do is to weld this one in, tack it in, form it into the hole a little bit better so that it fits better. It's not too far off, so there's not too much to do, and then do the one on the right hand side. Finally, the rear floor is finished. Welded all the way along the front, all the way along the side, all the way along the back. Wheel arches repaired, corner repaired, front corner repaired, bottom edge repaired. the job is done. What an epic job. There's the old floor. That's what's left of the old floor. That's what it looks like now. To say I'm pleased is an understatement. From that to that. Happy days. The final part of the rear floor is this sort of kick panel, or heel board I suppose you could call it. And on both sides we've got the same rust. So I've cut out the rust here, made a big hole, but we've got rid of the worst. Again, this corner here, cut the rust out. I'm just going to plate that. It's a nice square piece of plate, or square enough. This one here's got a bit of a bend at the bottom, but I've got some good steel to weld to now. Had to be a bit careful because the fuel pipes lay under there. My gold plated fuel pipes, if you remember, or solid gold fuel pipes, the cost of them. They run, the fuel tank is just there, and the fuel pipes run to the side of it, so I had to be a bit careful getting in there. So I went in there with the Dremel just to go steady, cut a bit away at a time. So be careful if you're doing that one. We've got a similar thing to do over that side. It's not so critical though, because no fuel tank, well the fuel tank's there, but no fuel pipes. But be careful, there might be a brake pipe or possibly a handbrake cable around there somewhere, but I'll check that out. That one there, I'm going to take a rain check on that one. There's no hole, clearly it's rusty, but I'm going to chip away at that and see what that ends up like. Really, this body shell has got maybe 5 years if we're lucky, because this kick panel here, that is a spare part, but obviously it is a huge job to change it. You have to take the body apart basically by the look of it. It's double skinned, there's some strengthening at the back of it just here. Yeah, I dread to think what that's like to change. Pretty horrible job, I should imagine. Although, having said that, it seems to be on this side, as in, you know, it's sandwiched, etc., etc. But it's probably doable. But I'm not going to. I'm going to make this one last for now. Try and cut the worst of the rust out. Give as much rust proofing as possible. I've got a bit of a secret formula for rust proofing that I use, as well as the standard proprietary stuff that you can get. So yeah, give it as much of that as we can and try and keep the rust at bay as much as possible, just to keep the thing tested and on the road. It will probably end up on a farm somewhere, being ragged around a field at high speed and through ditches and stuff like that. So eventually, that's what will happen eventually. But for now, we're going to use it. And I'm getting near the end of this and I'm happy. So we're on the heel board now, repaired. Big hole there, as you saw earlier. Hole there in the corner, and the same on the other side. Smaller hole just there, little patch, and then guess what? Started poking that and it became a hole. So I've patched that as well. It's not the best in the world, but it's certainly better than what was there. So what was there was either rust, thin rust, or a hole. Now there's good metal, no hole. Questionable about the metal around it, but until such times that starts to show holes and bad rust, this is how it's staying. So yeah, pleased with that. I'm going to give it some paint and some sealer on around the edges, and then that job is done. No one would ever know what lurked beneath. From that, we are back to seats in the back of the Jimny. It's a yes day, that's for sure. So finally, side trims in, carpet in, seats in, floor is finished. And looking in from the passenger side, same story. We've got seats, we've got carpet, it's clean, it's tidy, and the back of the Jimny is finished. If anybody ever says, why are you bothering, why don't you just buy one? Why don't you just go out and get another one? Get a better one. I'll tell you what, when you've done such an epic job and you've got to the end of it, the sense of achievement is unbelievable. So yes, it's not finished. I mean, I've got the bumpers on, I've got the side trims on. We need some of those horrible silly plastic clips that always break. I mean, they're 20 years old, so they're all brittle and everything. But look, it looks like a Jimny again. And where's the fun in just going out and buying one? Get on with it, have some fun doing it, and when you've done it, then you can have fun driving it and feel achieved in the process. It's fantastic. I love it. So, as it says on the back of the Jimny, have a nice day, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.